All right, looks like we are live. Welcome to the Power of Man podcast, everybody. My name is Rory Paquette. I am, as always, your very humble host. I am sitting here with a friend of mine that I met years ago, who I've followed ever since, and who has, given me a lot of support as I've gone through my weight loss issues and stuff. He's always there liking my posts and giving me some clapping hands and stuff. But this guy does some stuff that I don't think I could do every single day for a living, got to be honest with you. But he's got serious determination. He's got a hell of a why, and just an all around great guy with a lot of cool stories. So please welcome to the podcast, Philip Goncalves, a personal trainer. And Philip, I know you're from England, but I am lost on the cities and townships and everything else. So where are you from, and what do you do, brother? Welcome.
Oh, I think for most people, if I just say I'm near London, that will sort of cover a few bases. So maybe 45 minutes away from London. So as you mentioned, and first of all, let me say thank you so much for the honour of being on your podcast, Rory. Before I go into much about what I do, your podcast that you did when I was motivated enough to do a podcast was one of the ones that I had the most feedback from, and positive feedback. So from I'm a personal trainer, and from a lot of people I train who are fathers, they really resonated with what you said in the episode that you came on with me. Everyone just really warmed to you straight away, and I think I did as well. So yeah, honored to be asked to be on your podcast as well.
Thank you, man.
That's okay. So just backtracking a little bit. So I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer since I pretty much left school at the age of 18. Run a small group personal training facility just outside London, and just trying to make people happy and healthier every day of the week.
Okay. Now your facility that you train at is called Coopers Hill Training Club?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that imaginative. It's on Coopers Hill Lane. So yeah, that's basically there's nothing more to it than the location.
Okay. And you do in-person stuff, and you also do stuff online with people.
Yeah, so our model for in-person is small group personal training. So we do like a 4-to-1 model. So you're still getting that element of personalization, but generally most people I train are after the same thing, looking better, moving better, feeling better. So we don't really deal with anyone who's got any real like specific issues. Like, so there's no athletes in there. There's no people with major medical conditions that need that real one-on-one specificity. It is people who are after a general health, strength, vitality, you name it.
Okay. And then the online aspect of it, is that a little more tailored, or how do you run that? Because I looked that up and I was doing a little research into that. Tell me about that.
The online, I do like 3 different options. So one, I've got a program called Train. So that's sort of very similar to what we do at Coopers Hill. So it's your entry level fitness stuff. And then we've got Perform, which is more geared towards like an everyday athlete. So there might be someone who wants to have the robustness, the power, the strength to compete in sports, or run 5Ks or 10Ks or whatever their sporting endeavor is outside of being in the falls, the gym. And then Transform, which is our real like bespoke one-to-one. It's for people who really want a personalized approach, mainly for like body transformations.
Okay. And then I know that, I follow your posts. I see, all your stuff. I've gone back and read some over again. You do training for particular events. Is that right? I think I saw something where you were training guys to like work on the skills they need to compete. Is that correct? Did I get that?
Yeah. So I think, for me, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've sort of transitioned into the endurance sports world. So it started off within smaller races, then built up to marathon, and then eventually to triathlons. But from doing that training, you sort of see little gaps in the market where they don't really accommodate strength training to certain types of athlete. Like, it's all, you probably know from your boys, obviously it's a big thing with your sports, like your baseball and your American football. But when you think about running, no one thinks, oh, I can probably strength train to become a better runner. But no one puts that sort of connection with it. And it's not even necessarily a point of, oh, if you do a squat, you're going to become a better runner. It might be the fact that the strength work you do can then make you a bit more robust, so you're less prone to injury, so you're going to be able to train more throughout that year just because you've not had any time on the sidelines. So it's not all about bodybuilding or being the strongest guy in the gym. It's just sometimes about becoming a bit more robust.
And you're speaking from firsthand experience here. You mentioned that you did some of these endurance events. I mean, you've done something as I want to say casual, because it's not quite as formal, but as a Tough Mudder, which is still, when you take it seriously and you're running through electrical wires and stuff, is not exactly easy, right? You've done the London Marathon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you recently competed in a full-fledged Ironman.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm dying to get into that. All right. But I just want to like paint a picture of, who it is we're talking to here. I mean, you're not just some guy who, wrote a book or, put out a class or something. I mean, you're living everything that you're doing. I watch you on Instagram all the time doing it. I mean, you're out there running these races, and Ironman is like the pinnacle of what you're trying to do. I mean, for me anyway, and a lot of American guys, I think we all kind of feel that way. You managed to do all this with a family, with running a business, the whole 9 yards. Being a personal trainer is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And then you've got a family. You've got wife and kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when we met, you had one kid.
Yeah, first time definitely. And then I think not long after we spoke, we got the good news that we were expecting a second.
Right. And congratulations on both. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Let me ask, just to complete the picture, does your wife work, or is she a stay-at-home mother with the kids?
She works as well. So she works part-time. So her two brothers have basically a company. They install the electric car chargers. So she's basically the business manager for them, because those two are not quite as organized as she is. So she, being the older sister, makes sure that the two younger brothers are in line. So she's been dealing with that for the last few months.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm painting the picture, because what happens to a lot of us is we have a million excuses as to why we can't do anything, and we have a million reasons why we can't go to the gym. A lot of it is, our wives, our kids. You are a two-parent, both of you working household. You've got 2 children. You run your own business, and you manage to run your own business, have your wife work, and compete in these events. And oh, by the way, train yourself for all of these hours in order to compete in these events. So where does that come from? Where does that kind of discipline in your life, come from? Because that's insane to a lot of people.
Well, I think the number one thing, and I hope she listens to this, is I've got a very, very supportive wife. And she knows what gets me up in the morning. She knows what gets me excited to do things. And I think to have excitement in other parts of life, you've got to have passion outside of your family as well. Obviously, we all love our families, but I think you've got to have something else, another escape, another passion, and another way to fill up your own cup, to then go forth and fill up the cup of others that you're obviously ultimately responsible for.
Sure.
But I think for me, I'm up very early. I'm finished my work and my personal training in person with people, and then I've got a gap in the day. So I've got that gap to fill if I need to, for a run, a cycle, a swim, or a lifting session. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely days where you're running on 2 hours of sleep at best, and you've got every excuse not to do it. But at the end of the day, it's not something I've been forced to do. I've chosen to do it, and I'm lucky that I have been able to do it. It's like things when we're in the middle of a run and you think, I don't want to do this, and you might run past someone in a wheelchair, and you think that they can't run. I'm very, very lucky that I am, maybe feel like I'm suffering right now, but I'm not. So it's about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's counting your blessings at its finest right there.
Yeah, and you don't realize it all the time, but when you do run past someone who's not able to run, it just gives your suffering, air quotes, some perspective.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of things I want to talk to you about, but I can't keep the audience waiting anymore. I got to talk to you about the Ironman. All right. tell everybody about, for those who don't know, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows it's like running, cycling, swimming, but people don't really get, what order is it? How long is it? What does it entail? I mean, just give us a little bit of insider, what you went through during the race. And then of course I want to hear about how you prepared for it.
Okay. So an Ironman, or a full distance Ironman, it is, what are you best in, kilometers or miles?
I mean, we're best mostly in miles, but if you need to throw kilometers out there, most of us will get the general idea.
So it's a 3.8 kilometer swim in the ocean.
Okay.
Which I think is 2.4 miles.
Okay. So a really long way. That's what you tell
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot. When you literally, you go to the course, and you look in the sea, so I've got to swim all the way there and then all the way back. You soon realize. It's then, so you do thing, get out of the water, run to your transition area, grab your bike, and then you do a 180 kilometer cycle, which is 112 miles. And then obviously finish your bike, which you're looking at.
Did you say 112 miles on the bike?
Yeah.
112.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard that right. That's all. Just clarifying for everybody else.
And then you get off the bike and change out your gear if you need to, and you then run a marathon.
So full marathon.
Yeah, so it's
26.6.
Yeah. Miles. Yeah.
And you do this on purpose.
Yeah. I don't know what. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, this had never even been in my head. I never would have imagined. I hated running. So
no kidding.
No, I hated it. Absolutely hated any form of cardio.
Okay. So what makes a guy then who, is doing what you do? I mean, you're in great shape. You don't have to do this for your health or anything, right? What makes a guy like you say, I'm going to go run an Ironman, and this is how I'm going to have to train for
it? So for me, it was my dad. He was like an avid cyclist, loved it. And actually a really, really good swimmer in his youth. He passed away during COVID. And I think for me to have, thank you. I think for me to have a little bit of a connection to him, I started to cycle. And like with things like Strava, I could do a certain route, and it would say Mark Goncalves is a mile ahead, or how much quicker than you. So I used to almost race side by side with him, obviously not being there, but I could virtually race him up certain hills that he'd done before, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, got really like into it, found it quite peaceful, just spending a bit of time with my own thoughts at that time. And then I think on Instagram I saw a charity, and they'd had 2 people drop out of the London Marathon 12 weeks prior. And I started doing a bit of running my younger brother. And I thought, it's 12 weeks, not a lot of time, but let's give it a go. So I messaged another friend of mine who had started running as well, and he's got 2 children himself, and he started running when my dad died. He started running he probably got a bit of a wake up call, and was like, right, I need to try and make myself a bit healthy for his children. So he started running. Long story short, we trained together for the London Marathon. So every Sunday we meet up 7 a.m, do our 1 hour run, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, building up to the marathon. And one of the conversations we had during the marathon, during the training for the marathon was, what are we going to do after this? And then Ironman came. Well, I think triathlon came up. I think he said triathlon, and I said, well, if we do a triathlon, we might as well do an Ironman. So after I finished the London Marathon, I signed up for the Ironman. He didn't, I will add. He backed out of that promise. But I found an Ironman that's in Portugal. So my dad's side of the family's Portuguese. So it had like an extra special meaning being there, like listening to the national anthem that I'd hear my dad sing before the football matches on TV. So it had quite a like significant feeling being in Portugal as well.
Okay.
I've seen quite a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I have seen a bunch of posts that you've put up about your dad. I just didn't realize they did pass. So I do. Yeah. I'm sorry for that, but
thank you.
Yeah, I knew that you had a pretty strong connection there, which is awesome. And so that's part of the reason why you kind of get into doing the Ironman and everything else. One of the things that I talk to guys in our groups and other guys that I talk to about the podcast, is a man's need to compete in something. A lot of us do it in high school. We live those years forever. But when we get out of high school, if we're fortunate enough to do it maybe a little bit in college or something, then we do. But after that, it's for 99.999% of us, that's it. And then any competition after that is either in the business world, or it's for the love of a woman, or something like that. But we don't get to go out and just physically compete in anything. And I'm even noticing it now with my boys, who are only a short time removed from competing, but they're already missing competing. One's talking about wanting to do an Ironman. One's talking about wanting to go do a Spartan race. And so I'm like, they're already getting it. We, as older men, definitely have been getting it for years. But how important is that to you, and in your opinion, because you are a professional, to the development of men being men, that they go out and they actually compete in something?
Well, for me, it's just in my DNA. I think I'm just ultra competitive in everything, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sport, whether it's a family quiz. I just want to win at it. And rightly or wrongly, that's just how I made up. But I think, I don't know if it's the same in America, but we sort of tried to take the competitiveness out of our youths. Like for me, with my last year at my primary school, so when I was coming up to 11 years old, they stopped doing, I don't know if you call it the same thing, but like sports day. So at the end of the year, we'd have all the children would compete in a relay race, hurdles, etc. And they stopped making it competitive. Like everyone got a trophy. And I think it doesn't then prepare you for life. And then, because life is, whether you like it or not, it's competitive, isn't it?
Yeah,
like you said, whether it's getting a job, getting the love of a woman, you could be the nicest guy in the world, but someone might be a bit more competitive with you, and you might have missed out on the chance of your true love in your eyes. But how important is it? I think it's something that, as men and our wives as well, probably need to instill in our children from a young age, because maybe the society we live in now doesn't want to instill that in our youth. Something I don't agree with, and I don't think I've even instilled it in my girls anyway. But for me, if I go up the stairs with Lily, my oldest one, she'll race me up the stairs and say, "I beat you," and I love it, because she does it on everything. And she wants to beat me on everything, and I'm happy seeing that. But I think it's something almost primal for men to have to compete, and it's part of our DNA and our evolution's probably taken it away from us a little bit.
I love that. Primal is like the perfect word. You're a personal trainer, so you've got a client who comes into you, and he's an out of shape older guy. He's trying to get back in. He's trying to feel better. He's trying to look better. What do you say to him about wanting to compete? Because obviously, not everybody can just go run a marathon, with 12 weeks notice. So what do you say to the guy who really does feel that need to compete, but he really just doesn't know where to look? How do you guide that particular client?
So I've we've got a very competitive atmosphere at Coopers Hill. And the reason is that if someone does something, so if they've done a deadlift, a bike time, a squat, a bench, whatever, it's on the board, and every single person that walks in that gym can see it. And it's a small community where I live, so everyone knows who everyone is. So Graham might come in on Monday at 7 and see Martin's time from the 6 o'clock session and say, right, I'm going to go and beat Martin now. So we're sort of breeding that competitiveness without making it too, what's the right word? Too brutal, I suppose. But everyone knows who they're competing against, and it's kind of just made it a really fun atmosphere.
Yeah. And
it's where people say, right, so and so has been here for a year, so I know if I keep training, I can get up to that level, and then so and so's chasing me. I need to sort of up my game to make sure I stay away from him.
That's awesome. I love that idea. I haven't seen that at any gym around here.
No, so what we do, like even like almost every workout, there's a competitive element to it. So it might be something as simple as we're going to jump on the bike at the end and we're going to record everyone's 5K times. they're all going on the board. Then the next session will come in. Right, I can see Jane's time on there. I want to beat Jane. I want to beat John. Whoever it is, they're all chasing after those times, and it makes their session better, enjoyable. And for some people, there's a bit of anxiety built into that about trying to race and get their time, especially if their mum's been in beforehand as well.
Nice. Okay. I love that. We've talked about excuses. We've talked about, competing, things like that. I noticed another post that you had up, and it's absolutely priceless. You've got what looks like some discs on the gym floor, all set up. Looks like maybe an obstacle course or a speed training thing. And you're standing there looking down, and your daughter is right across from you, looking straight down, like, I don't think so. What have you done to instill this in your kids?
The competitive side of things.
Yeah.
I don't think I've not done anything purposeful. I don't think it's just I always think that we live our lives how we live our lives, and we know that the children they're going to follow. They're probably not going to listen to a lot of things I say, but they're definitely going to follow an example that we set, and they can probably tell that even from a very early age that I'm competitive. I'm not letting them win at anything. And they can see that we're trying to stretch ourselves and push ourselves. Both Charlotte, my wife, and I were both willing to do that and show them that that's the way that we want to live our lives.
That's good. You mentioned your wife a lot, and I know that's a huge relationship. It's a huge rock for you. You mentioned it again today. Having a supportive wife was gigantic. I've been fortunate enough to have the same thing. I get to go online and have these conversations and spend all this time, in my office, and my wife's like, okay, go do what you got to do. A lot of people would be going, hey, you're not going to sit here and spend time with me right now. She's like, this is what you need to do. Go do it. Yeah. So I know that that's incredibly important to you. Do you and your wife, do you actively have conversations and planning, about how you're going to raise your kids? Or are you one of the few guys that's just lucky enough that the two of you kind of meshed and you just agree without really trying? You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys run into this.
Yeah, I think when we first met and like on the first few dates, you sort of have those conversations about what's going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. I did on our first day. I told her I was going to marry her. And we saw a guy, performing at the venue we went to, just like a busker, and we got his number to be on the night to be our wedding singer. He didn't actually end up being our wedding singer, but I made my intentions very clear to her.
Wow,
because we were just on the same. We were on the same page for everything. Like we had the same sort of morals, same sort of family values, same sort of ambitions for a family and where we wanted to take our lives. So honestly, there's not been a lot of real need for a conversation, because we just tend to be on the same page for a lot of things.
Now, did you know this before you went out with her? Like, did you kind of know who she was and you were familiar with her and you knew that she was pretty much your cup of tea before you even asked her out, or this was all new?
Only looks wise, to be honest. It was, other than that, I knew nothing about her.
That's honest. All right.
Yeah, no. I was working in an office at the time, and she was in there for a week as a temp. And the lady next door said, "Oh, Philip, what are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." So take Charlotte out for lunch. I was like, "Okay." So we got thrown together, and so went out for lunch. And then the next day we actually went on a proper date. And then, yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. That's a great story. Most guys are not that lucky, I'll be honest with you. So
no, yeah, I was very lucky with that one. We got thrown at each other.
Okay. Well, I kind of went off on that tangent. I just I heard you talking about your wife again and again. And I know, for so many guys, it's really important to have that support, but a lot of them don't know how to go out about getting it, and
yeah,
they don't have that.
I've got no secrets on that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, that's why I asked. Let's go back to the kid thing for a minute, because I like I said, I saw that one post, and your daughter really you can tell she's a lot like you, sort of standing there in your face. But you do advocate for, hey, train with your kids, bring them along, show them. What's your advice to dads on, when do you start training? How do you go about doing that? What's too much, what's proper, so on.
Mhm. I mean, obviously it depends on the starting point and where you're at, but I'm big into like habit creation. And even if you told yourself you want to train 3 times a week, start doing something 3 times a week at a certain time and don't miss it. Like, treat it like, if you're a businessman, treat it like a business with an appointment with your most important client, because you're more important, your most important client, when your health definitely is when it comes to your family as well. But even if it's a case of scheduling a 20-minute walk 3 times a week and then building from there, because that may be your foundation. Then maybe it's a case of getting some weights on eBay or on Facebook Marketplace, and then building your own routine around that at home. Because I mean, there's so many cheap entry level online coaching that you can get access to, with like incredible coaches from around the world. Like, with the internet, I don't need to tell people that they know they can access anything now, but you have access to the best coaches in the world. You find the right one, that's the one that's right for you, and you're going to have some sort of structure to go by. But I think the first thing is just creating that habit and try. I know with you've been big into habit creation as well, haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing every word you're saying, going, that rings true to me.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it doesn't really matter where you start. For most people, it's finding something they can enjoy, can stick to, and they're actually going to get some benefit from. But it's like, even a case of, on the days where you don't feel like, I'll give you an example. For me today, I didn't fancy. I think I had like a 2,000-meter swim plan today, and I just didn't really fancy it today. But I turned up to the swimming pool. I did 250 meters and left. But I've still got a little bit of habit ingrained that I've gone there, taken my clothes off while it was cold, got in, did that uncomfortable bit, did a little bit, and then left. I didn't do the full thing I was supposed to do, but some of it is done in that little bit of habits ingrained. And you could possibly argue the habit of quitting is also starting to be ingrained, but we'll leave that there.
That's pretty huge, actually. So, yeah. So, okay, I get what you're saying. So what you did was you kept the habit of showing up, of keeping your schedule intact by going, but then you were able to listen to your body that was telling you, hey, today's not the day.
Yeah.
For a 2,000 meter, kick.
I know, and part of it is, I know that England are playing America in the World Cup today. I'm going out with my friends tonight. I'm going to have a few drinks. My recovery is not going to be very good tomorrow. So a 2,000-meter swim probably wasn't ideal, but something just kept that habit going.
Well, hey, so you managed to work your social calendar into this also, and your fandom for soccer. I'm sorry, you guys call it football, right?
Yeah. If you beat us tonight, you can call it soccer.
That's a deal. I'll send you a message on Instagram if we beat you tonight. Yeah. So I told my wife I wanted to check out the game. She's like, "You're going to watch soccer?" I said, "You don't understand, because there's almost a thing now." Okay, with Philip, I'm going to have to. All right, pick a side.
I'm a little bit torn as well tonight, because my team's Fulham, and the USA have 2 Fulham players playing for them tonight as well. So I'll quietly be supporting Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson as well.
Those guys, but outwardly you're supporting your team.
Yeah, I want them to do well. I don't want to concede too many goals.
Right on. Yeah, you mentioned that to me when we were scheduling the interview. You're like, "Hey, how about right before the World Cup?" And I'm like, "I'd love to pretend that I know when that's on, man. I really would, but no, I'm gonna have to check it out now." I said, he almost called me out on this, like, quietly, so I'm gonna have to take a look at this and see what's going on. No, that's great. The one more thing about the kids, and it's only because it's I'm not trying to nail you down. If you want to not give an answer and not nail yourself to it's totally okay.
Well, I'm going off on tangents sometimes, so stop me when I do.
Not at all. There's a lot of talk. You've seen my boys on Instagram, I'm sure, at some point. They're monsters. They've played American football. They're into weight training. They've been doing it since a young age. I've been criticized for having my boys lift weights too young. I did it very differently. I introduced them to weights, and I had them build their tendons and their joints and ligaments and everything else with light weights, high reps, a lot of repetitions, that sort of thing, to get used to the movements, to build themselves up while they were still developing. I never had them go in and do bench press, deadlift, squats for weight when their bodies were still developing and stuff. So that was just my own personal, this is how I handled my boys. Now it's worked out. I don't want to say that, well, since it worked out and I have two, huge guys, that I'm completely right. There's a lot of different schools of thought on when you introduce weight training, how, and I'd love to just get your opinion. I mean, because everybody's got a different idea. For the dads out there who want to get their kids into weight training, and let me digress for a second. What happens to these kids if they don't get any sort of guidance from their dads is they get into high school and the weightlifting coach goes, go bench.
Yeah.
And everything's on the wall, and it's kids, and it's everybody's trying to lift more and more and more. And then you see shoulders popping and pecs tearing, and because they did nothing except walk in the gym one day and start benching. So your opinion, your professional opinion on when do you introduce weights and how to young men, young women?
Yeah, well, I think from even when I was growing up, you were told, obviously, if you lift weights at a certain age, it's going to stunt your growth. But that has been thoroughly debunked since, luckily. And that's the thing with science, is ever evolving, isn't it? And maybe one day it will tell us something different towards that as well. But I think my opinion with it is a bit like anyone. You've got to start where you're at. So whether you are a child or a 30-year-old man going to the gym for the first time, it's going to be a case of building that foundation first before you're then progressing to whether it be more technical lifts or more weight. But like you said, you've done all the foundation with your boys, and that's obviously paid off long on when they have got. I've seen some. I'm sure it was one of your boys I saw deadlifting some stupid amount of weight. So
yeah. I wish that hadn't happened, but it was like, okay.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's everyone has a starting point. It doesn't matter whether you're a child or a fully grown man. If you've both never been to the gym, I get it. Obviously, with a fully grown man, there's certain processes that have happened in your body,
right?
But again, you're going to be starting where you're at. So for children, I mean, can you go too far wrong with some body weight squats, some chin ups, and some press ups? I know most men can't do chin ups and press ups nowadays.
Right.
So why not start a child off and give them those foundational movements and let them, when they do go to a gym with their colleagues or their friends, they're able to do things that men should be able to do, and arguably women as well.
Okay. All right. So good advice. So really, there isn't any age that you're worried about or that type of thing. It's just how you do it.
Not that I'm aware. Obviously, if you're doing stupid things at any age, you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
So it's being sensible, and whether it's just meeting the person where they're at.
Good deal. You said that to me a lot when I was talking about my book the first time. Actually, yeah, we talked about that a lot. You have to just meet somebody where you're at. So and then that's probably my last question for you. And I really appreciate your time today and everything that you shared with everybody. And it's great to see you again.
You too as well. I sort of feel like the thing with Instagram, you sort of feel involved with someone's life. Like I know, obviously, with what you share, I know what's going on to a degree in your life. So it's nice on that side of things, being on the other side of the world as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that way. I feel the same way. Like we know each other, but we talked twice, So no, but I know what you mean. When I wrote my book and I documented, that part of my journey, that was just part of it. That was sort of the beginning. That was something that you and I both completely agreed on, was you got to start where you are, and everything is slow, and it's a little more tomorrow than it is today. And it's a gradual, you're not going to change that. You didn't get this way, right? In, 1 week, you're not going to change it all in 1 week. So maybe it's something that you see, okay, with your training, with guys who they're out of shape, they're overweight. They have finally said, hey, you know what? I got to make a change. I got to do something different. So what's your best a couple of things that you want to tell guys. This is what you want to go ahead and do. You're a dad, you've been sitting sedentary, you're not a high school football player anymore, you're not going to bounce back. You got to be able to go to work tomorrow, so you can't do anything stupid like a 500-pound squat, right?
Yeah.
What do you tell guys like that who want to start?
To start, because that's what everyone wants to put it off till next Monday, till January the 1st. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if it's a Wednesday afternoon. You can put down the bad habit, you can put down a pack of cigarettes, you can put down the drink, you can put down the extra fries that you've ordered with your meal, and you can just start where you are right now. You don't have to wait for a certain day or an event to change. Like, most people want that significant moment, and I always say it to people, like, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for a heart attack? Are you waiting for a stroke? You wait for your high blood pressure? Why do you need that precise moment in time to make a change? It's especially for fathers, like for me, for you, you've got three of the most precious things in the world. Like, that's more than enough reason to start right now. I think just start, even as a case of most of us. I don't know if you're still the same in America, like working from home a lot of the time now. It can be a case of just shutting your laptop and going for a walk, and that can just be the start of a brand new habit that you can have every day. But yeah, just start.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, because we all want the perfect scenario. We all want the perfect conditions to start. It's never going to happen. So just start now.
Stop waiting for your Rocky moment and just get out the door and go do something. Exactly. That's excellent. So if people want to contact you and they want to, say, hey, I really like this guy, I like his style, I'd love for him to train me, how do they contact you? What's the best way for them to contact you?
I think where I'm most active is probably on Instagram, and that my handle is just at Philip Gonc. So that's Philip with one L and then Gonc.
Okay, and that's just the best way. Just message you there, or
I'm on there a lot. I try and post a lot of content, sort of help people out, motivate people, give them a bit of advice on training and nutrition along, and occasionally see my cheeky daughters popping up as well. So there's all sorts on there.
Okay. I mentioned
tonight might have a few too many Guinnesses posted on there as well, but
so start following you tomorrow is what you're saying.
Yeah, there'll be no useful content tonight.
All right, I forgot something. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, one more. And I've wanted to ask you about this ever since I saw it on your wall. All right, and ever since we first talked about it back when you were interviewing me about my first book I wrote out there. What's the deal with The Rock, man?
I've had an obsession with him since I was a child.
I mean, you literally have like what looks like a life-size Dwayne Johnson Rock.
Yeah. So
on your wall, right?
On my wall in the gym, I've got my dad in the middle on his bike, Cristiano Ronaldo on the left. So my family's all from Madeira, which is where Cristiano Ronaldo is from, hence why he's on there. And then The Rock next to them. So I think from like the early wrestling days, I was obsessed with The Rock, and it just grew and grew and grew. I mean, I've got his autograph on my wall. My dad worked in the hotel industry, and The Rock, I think, was filming Fast and Furious 5 maybe in London, and he was staying there. So I've got my dad managed to bump into him in the lift, in the elevator. Considering my dad was about, I don't know, 5'7", quite short, and The Rock was 6'4". It must have been quite a funny interaction. But yes, I've got 2 Philip piece from Dwayne Johnson.
Nice. Got his autograph.
He's always been a big motivation to me.
That's awesome. I had to ask. So I mean, it seems like all of us have that one guy that we kind of emulate, that is just out there, and mine's been Sylvester Stallone. So
one other, I remember you saying before. Actually, I think we asked who you have dinner with, maybe. And Sylvester Stallone was in there, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's sort of been my hero, since I was very young, and needed one. When I needed a male role model, there was Rocky, there was Rambo, there was Sylvester. Yeah. So I've got,
Charlotte's mum bought me a little action figure of The Rock. And one of my girls calls it Daddy. I'm not sure how to take it, but I think it's a good thing.
Hey, if you're being compared to the Rock, I think that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
in really good
As
shape,
long
my
as she
friend.
doesn't think her actual daddy is the Rock, that'd be more worrying.
Well, yeah, I guess there's that. All right. Listen, I'm going to let you go because I know you've got a huge, huge event coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. It really has
Thank
been.
you, Roy. It was a pleasure as always to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that too. Yeah, folks, this is Philip Goncalves, and he is available. He's an excellent guy that you've already figured out. He's speaking from the heart. He's speaking firsthand. He actually does all this stuff that we're always talking about. And I think you can tell he's a real down-to-earth guy who gets it. So, if you're looking to get back in shape, gentlemen, and you're looking to kind of get your life started again, if you need advice on something, if you're thinking about competing in something, contact this guy. Contact this guy on Instagram. I'm going to have all your information, Philip, in the show notes for everybody who wants to, contact you. And just thank you, man. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks
all
a
right.
lot.
To the rest of you folks out there, the reason that this is important and the reason that we talk to people like this is because you need to remember every single day that you're worth it. Okay. We constantly sacrifice, we constantly give, but the point is that you got to take care of you too. And you are worth the trouble. You just have to believe it. Until next time.